Over under $1 billion. How much money has been wasted on software for digital accessibility? I'm going to take the over, and I think it's an easy over. And I was talking about why software is problematic with a client today, and she already knew the answer because she had experienced it firsthand. What happens so many times is clients have this objective, and the objective is WCAG conformance for their digital asset. And so they talk to a digital accessibility seller, they go to a sales pitch, and the different companies, the different agencies in digital accessibility, they already have the sales pitch. They weave in their scan or their app so well, they make it sound like a seamless part of the process that is absolutely needed, and it's a complete waste of money. So what is needed are professional services. That's what clients need. They need professional services because that's the only way to get to full WCAG conformance. And it doesn't matter which version, you need to have the professional services. What you don't need is the software. You don't need the technology, even though the technology can be beneficial in certain aspects. You still ultimately need the professional services. So you can completely cast aside all of the technology. But if you listen to the sales pitches, it sounds like you need it. It sounds like it should be there all along. And the sellers they've crafted and they've homed in their sales pitch over years. And what you have to know about digital accessibility companies is that many of them want to be known as SaaS companies, as software as a service. They want to be known as tech companies. They do not want to offer exclusively professional services. And the reason why is that does not help the valuation of their company. It doesn't increase their stock price. In fact, it would definitely hurt their valuation if they were to be known as a professional services company. Why? Because the margins aren't as high and they don't get that recurring revenue. They don't have that subscription. They don't have that software subscription. So that's what they want. And so they've created this sales pitch around software and around technology. So whatever form that takes, it might be a scan, it might be a widget, whatever it is, it might be a platform. They need to push the tech side. Now, they may go ahead and tack on some accessibility services, so some professional services, but that's just because they really can't escape it. They can't get around that. And if they want to offer a quote unquote suite of solutions, then they need to shove that in there. But they'll do that, but they will still insist upon the technology side because that's what they need to have. That is what they might be, a hybrid SaaS company, but they need to have the technology in there because that's where the margins are. So the people who are hurt are the buyers because they are sold on a story that technology is a part of this. And so then they are sold a scan or a quote unquote suite of tools or whatever it is, a solution or a bundle of solutions, when all that's needed is simply professional services to help them reach their end objective. And really what ends up happening is the technology, the apps, the software, whatever it is, it's all a distraction. And it actually impedes progress and slows things down. So on the screen with me, I have two images. On the left side, we have this image that's just meant to represent something that's high tech. So we have these wavelengths and we have these strands that are moving through this blue background, and we have these different numbers showing, and this is just meant to represent high tech. And then on the right side, we have this worker, this construction worker or this carpenter who is on a building roof, and they are laying down covering on top of the building, and they've got a hard hat on. And the point here is this is the person you want. You want the person who is going to offer you the tried and true services. What you don't want are the hyped up services technology is going to take you home. You need our reports, you need our maintenance, you need our monitoring, you need our scans, you need our widget, whatever it is. That's not what you want, and you especially don't want to pay for that. You don't want to pay thousands of dollars on a subscription. And the digital accessibility companies are getting away with so much right now because of a lack of education on the part of the buyer. Now, this is this is something where it's going to be short-lived. It's not going to continue on forever because buyers are rapidly advancing in their understanding of digital accessibility and what is necessary. But the sellers are going to go with this, right? They're going to sell widgets for as long as they can because they can't escape, right? They can't get away from, we want to be software as a service. We want to be a technology company. They desperately want that. They do not want to be a professional services company because it doesn't serve them. And that's the problem that is just continually comes up is with digital accessibility sellers, so many of them are looking to create something to sell rather than looking for and offering what the buyer needs to reach their end objective. So they've flipped this to where they are selling what serves them rather than what serves the client. And the problem is that one, a lot of clients are specifically looking for technology. They are looking for accessibility to be resolved with some software or just activating something. That's what a lot of buyers, when they are new to accessibility and starting out, they're looking for some sort of software to take care of this. And they just don't know yet that that's not what's going to help them reach their end objective. And of course, the sellers know this too, but they've created this nice pitch and this nice story to sell to buyers who already want the technology anyway, knowing that it is misleading and knowing that at best it's going to slow the clients down and really distract them from what they need. So what I tell a lot of clients is like, look, yes, there are some ways that technology can help you with digital accessibility, and some of them are free. In fact, many of them are free, right? We can use a scan right now for free. We can use AI right now for free. AI can help us with, let's say we have an infographic and we want to make an alt text description really quickly. AI can help us with that, right? There are ways that technology can advance our progress with accessibility. But for that end objective, you're still going to need professional services. And you want to go with the tried and true professional services, the old-fashioned services. You actually don't want the technology because the technology is not going to get you there. And that's only what clients find out after the fact, right? That's usually what happens is the clients pay a lot of money. They might enter into a longer term contract. Maybe it's an annual contract. Maybe it's a 2-year contract or even longer. But then after they find out that's really not what I needed the whole time. I was sold this. I was given this sales pitch. It sounded really good. But at the end of it, what am I left with? And I still need to work on accessibility. Or at the end of it, I was still sued over accessibility. So when you're listening to these sales pitches, you really have to start asking yourself, is this really what I need? And I wouldn't even get to the point where you're really even sitting in on these sales pitches because you can already know you don't need them anyway. But if you are going through them, you really want to ask the sellers questions and not just let them get away with running on and on about how technology is so integral to all of this. And we're going to provide you the platform, or we're going to provide you with this custom overlay that you need, or an overlay widget that you need, or whatever it is, because there's always some hyped up product in digital accessibility. And right now we see the tagline of AI is being added everywhere. And AI sounds good because we know that artificial intelligence really is capable of amazing things, right? And even in digital accessibility, it is helping advance accessibility. But the value here is not with the seller. It's mostly with the free offerings that are available. And what's happened is the software, the sellers are trying to take advantage of this and paint this picture as if they have the quote unquote solution that you as the buyer need, when that's really not the case at all. What you really need are professional services, and you also need education so that you don't have to continually rely upon professional services if you don't want to. But you're not going to, this is not something that you're going to hear in sales pitches, right? You're going to see this insistence upon technology, software, apps, etc. And so one so technology is what's commonly bundled in the technology suite, or whatever they're calling it, the suite of tools, is a scan. So it's centered around a scan. But scans are very limited. And if you think about it, they really don't fit along with an audit. So this makes it especially problematic and questionable when the scan is sold along with an audit. Because if you're getting an audit, then what do you need a scan for? Because an audit is going to supersede a scan. And you can use a scan right now for free. So what are you really buying? It's always hyped up, it's always oversold. But what you're looking for with digital accessibility is professional services and also education so that you can continue this on. You don't want to be continually reliant upon an accessibility provider unless you just want to source out specific things to that provider. But it gets really expensive over time to continually source out accessibility services. So unless you understand exactly how the technology is going to help you, and this needs to come from within, this needs to come on your side, unless you understand exactly how the technology advances you, then don't get technology. Get the professional services. Now, if there is some way that the technology is helping you, then yes, by all means, go get that technology. But what happens, and I've even seen people, there was a webinar that was put on by a state government, and there was this person who was assuming the role of an expert, and this person was insisting upon the scan, not understanding that the scan wasn't really going to help with meeting the objective of the members, the people who are watching the webinar. And so scans are commonly oversold. They're free. You don't have to buy them. Yes, there can be progress reports and there are nice graphics and pie charts and scores, but you just don't, that's really not what you're after as a client. And it usually takes a while for clients to understand this, but the bad part is that they've usually parted with several thousands of dollars, or they've signed a 5-figure contract for multiple years. And then only after that takes place is when they realize what we needed the whole time were the services. And so the services may have been a part of that, but then they come tacked on to this really empty value. So there might be some of the companies take the approach of like, well, we know we need to offer the services because we know that's what people are looking for, and they understand that they need the services, but let's tack on these air services, right? These services that don't really do anything, but they increase our margins. They give us the ability to claim that we're a SaaS company or that we're a tech company. And so we want to have those on because those are going to help us when it comes to the valuation time, or when it comes to making sure that our stock price is higher. So it's really important to understand with accessibility that you're not after technology. Unless you again, you need to understand, if you have a specific reason, then go for it. But also ask yourself, do I really need these inflated services, or can I just use something that's available for free on the marketplace? So ChatGPT does a really good job with alternative text descriptions. And there are a number of tools that help with closed captions. So it's like do you need to pay thousands of dollars on a contract, or um, can some of these offerings be had for low to no cost? Scans are ubiquitous. You'll notice that there are so many different websites where you can scan a single page of your website. What's often overlooked is you don't need any more than a single page scan. And these scans are basically the same. Some flag a few more issues than others, some flag a few partial issues if we look to the success criterion, but they're basically the same, and you don't need to pay for them because you're not going to be working on 100 pages of your website. So that's one of the selling points. You can scan your entire website. Well, I would counter, so what am I going to do with 100 pages of scan results? I have a team and they can only work on what, one, two, maybe three pages at a time. I can just go scan my page right now using the Wave Scan for free. I don't need to have a subscription to a scan. And then there might be monitoring or alerts. Okay, well, if there are monitoring or alerts, is my team going to stop? And as soon as they get that alert, they're going to go fix that? Moreover, if we are introducing accessibility issues, why are we introducing accessibility issues? Also, what about the issues that are not flagged by a scan? What then, right? So then we have a skewed vision of what new accessibility issues there are. So we might not know what other issues have been introduced, right? So it's skewed, it's problematic for so many reasons. And I'm talking about scans right now, but just in general with technology, of course, we've seen overlays sold and the benefits not only exaggerated, but just outright lied about in many cases. And this industry has really preyed upon the lack of education and the lack of understanding of many of the buyers. And this has happened for so many years. But of course, the market is advancing as they are starting to look more, as the market is starting to understand and research accessibility more. So I think this is going to come to light. And what you have to remember is that so many of these companies were taking advantage of buyers when they were able to. So this is something that's been happening, still happens, but I think is going to happen less and less. And it's really important that people know when they are trying to meet their objectives for accessibility, that they want to choose substance over style. And that's what I have on this graphic is, don't buy into the hype, buy into the tried and true, to the solid professional accessibility services, because that's going to advance you to where you need to be. It's not going to be the hyped up software or technology. They're always going to make this sound like it does more than it does. It's very limited at best. And unless you know exactly why you need it, you very likely do not. And again, the professional services are going to supersede the technology. So you need the services, you don't need the technology. And that's really the takeaway here, just because this is something that buyers really need to know, because there are literally billions of dollars at stake, and you don't want that money to just go into the ether and just go and straight into the accessibility company coffers. So it's very important to know, it's very important to stick to the professional accessibility services. These are what you need. And then to continue on, you definitely need education so that your team picks up on accessibility and they gain expertise over time. Accessibility is definitely something that your team can pick up. They just need to gain some experience. They need to have training. They need to just research this, spend some time, gain some experience. One of the best ways to gain experience is to go through an audit and start making the fixes. And your team's going to start picking up accessibility really, really quickly. There are so many ways that you can advance your team's knowledge, and then give it 1 to 2 years, and you'll start noticing not only proficiency, but expertise is being developed in-house. So stick with the mantra of substance over style. Always go towards the professional services and avoid the hyped technology.